Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to just briefly cover a notion I heard about recently called radical incrementalism. Incrementalism is defined as the belief in or advocacy of change by degrees, gradualism. I heard this when I was listening to the podcast The Diary of a CEO with Steven Bartlett. It was episode 125 with journalist and author Oliver Burkeman. And amongst many other great things they talk about, they cover radical incrementalism, which I think, to briefly kind of sum up myself, is committing to working out or practicing your craft for however short amount of time as often as possible. And instead of just desperately trying to commit to doing a 5-hour chunk of work, if you can commit to just even very small periods of time practicing your craft, you boost your chances of sticking with it in the long term and increasing your chances of success. Now I know that this won't obviously apply to every skill or thing that needs to be learned, doing it little and often, but I wanted to cover it in this video because I do think it would be very helpful in the context of starting a YouTube channel, if that's what you want to do, because I do think in that context it would be very useful. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So Oliver Burkeman is an author and journalist who's written books such as 4,000 Weeks, that's apparently the average lifespan of a human, and The Antidote.
Gradual progress, to do a tiny bit at a time and not binging on the things you're trying to achieve, can be really powerful.
Essentially, you get going on your project, writing a YouTube script, writing a book, doing whatever, and he actively decides to stop, even if he's on a roll, which does sound a bit strange. But what he believes this does is it makes your practice more sustainable. If you keep planning large chunks of time, maybe at the weekend, to sit down and write a ton of YouTube scripts, you run the risk of not being able to sustain that. It suddenly becomes a great big daunting task. I know, speaking from experience, if I think that I'm going to sit down and get all of this writing done for my channel over the weekend, a lot of the time it never actually happens because life gets in the way. I get distracted, all kinds of things, and it never gets done. And it's actually a lot to ask of yourself to set aside all of that time and think you're going to work all the way through it. I'm now kind of expanding on what he touched on in the episode. But the whole reason I just so wanted to share this is because the effect it had on me is it really relieved a sense of pressure. If I can just try and dedicate myself to a small quality amount of time of work rather than stressing over many hours where I'm always getting distracted and never really ever actually achieving anything. Just a small amount every single day or every other day. Now, as I've already mentioned, this is great in the context of starting and running a YouTube channel. I'm guilty of leaning far too much on the ideation side of YouTube, just constantly thinking up of video ideas. Then suddenly I'm faced with this Grand Canyon-sized space between me and where I want the channel to be. And all the things in between that I've got to get done can be really daunting. But again, obviously this doesn't apply to every aspect of making videos. Like, sure, if you set your equipment up, it's not about then, making sure you do a little bit, then you've got to pack everything down again. Sometimes once you've got stuff set up to film a video, you might have to just dedicate and push through 4, 5, 6 hours or however long it takes to get it done. I think it's all the little things where this really relieves the pressure for me and will hopefully ensure that I'm still able to be doing this in the long term. Hi guys, this is Rob editing here. I wasn't very clear when filming this, but this new segment is now to cover a notion that complements, I think, radical incrementalism, which is called the power of friction and reducing its presence in your workflow. I heard this from YouTuber Ali Abdal.
So we can think of friction as the force of resistance in the gap between intention and action.
Definitely go and check him out. I think he's really great. But anyway, I just wanted to be more specific in where this video is now going. Back to the video. He talks about removing the friction from your process of creating videos. These friction points being the pain of having to set up equipment or the time taken to write a script. But if you can write maybe more than one script at a time, or you film more than one video at one time, this will all contribute to the whole process of making videos a hell of a lot easier. So moving forward, I know I need to select elements of the process of making videos for this channel that I can devote consistent small amounts of time to so that I don't burn out or lose interest. And I need to slot these moments of time somewhere into my daily routine where it's not going to be too difficult to drop everything and start doing, and just makes it seamless. One thing that I've always found really useful is right before I go to bed, if I have a book that I really want to read, right before I go to bed, I find it really easy to read a couple of pages in a short amount of time. It really helps me wind down and doesn't feel like it's too much effort. I think if my goal was to read a book, I would find it really hard finding that time during the weekend or on a weekday to stop everything, go and read some of that book. But for some reason doing it just before I go to bed, it's not difficult to do. It's right there. I'm not doing anything else. The next thing I've got to do is go to sleep. So I feel in a way I've kind of removed the friction of having to do that task. And if I can just repeat that every time I go to sleep, then over the span of several days, several weeks, that book will be completely read. Same goes for anything else. I think I want to definitely commit myself to spending even half an hour writing a YouTube script just before I go to bed, whether I've got a tablet or just a notepad and pen, that I can spend 30 minutes writing some ideas or writing a script without it being too much hassle or getting in the way of all the other things that I've got to do at the weekends and working during the week. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching. Just to kind of recap again, we've looked at the notion of radical incrementalism, relieving yourself of the pressure that you've got to give yourself the whole weekend or whenever to get a task done. And we've looked at Ali Abdaal's notion of removing the friction from the process. My version of that here being, where can you place this small amount of time in the day that means that you're always going to be able to do it and it's not going to feel too difficult, like you're dropping everything to try and get it done. Again, I've only loosely borrowed from his notion of that. Go and check out his videos where he touches on it. But again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon for another video.